Martial Law, the fighting chef, says the prologue of Tekken 5. He's one of the most famous Tekken characters, and the guy that everyone picked because they thought that he was Bruce Lee. He probably has the coolest moveset in the game, and he's involved in some pretty funny scenarios. A true icon of the game. But why did the game call him the fighting chef? There's no mention of any restaurant in Tekken 7 episode. Well, Marshall used to own a whole chain of them, and a very successful one at that. So where is all of it now? What happened to it? Well, it turns out that Marshall is down on his luck for the past couple of years, and he used to be really successful just a short time ago. And today we'll be taking a look at Marshall's life to find out how did his life turn upside down. We will follow Marshall from when he was a young whippersnapper up until now that he's middle-aged and broke. Sounds depressing? Well, it kinda is. And we're going to talk about it. So, how did we get to know Marshall? His first appearance was at the very beginning, Tekken 1. Marshall was a young kitchen assistant at the time, working in San Francisco. He joined the tournament in the hopes of opening his own dojo with the prize money, and to gain some fame as a bonus. And he annoyed the ever-living hell out of me whenever I pressed 3 while playing him.
Shut up, you're so annoying!
So, how did Marshall do in his first outing? Well, his tournament ended up prematurely when he fought against Wang Jinrei. The two ended their fight in a draw. So, I don't know how he got kicked out of the tournament, but that's never really explained. And that's how his dream of opening the dojo was ruined. So he didn't fulfill his dream at that tournament. Until Yoshimitsu came around. At the time, Yoshimitsu was a modern day Robin Hood, but he realized that stealing was bad, so now he just protects the weak. And with Yoshimitsu's help, Law had gathered the money to open his dojo. And how did Yoshi get the money to help Law out? Well, he stole it, obviously. He took the money off of Ganryu, who was a bad guy at the time, as he was a criminal back then. So it was okay to steal from him. But that was before Ganryu met the Chang family. Now he's just a creepy old dude that likes to walk half naked and spies on Julia. So now that Law has opened his dojo, he was happy and had no intention of joining the second tournament. Until someone decided to mess with his dojo. A mysterious villain decided to trash Marshall's dojo, injuring his students in the process. So, as it often is the case with Tekken characters, Law joins the tournament to seek revenge. When he joined the tournament, Law found out who the mysterious villain was.
Who's that Pokemon? It's
Baek Du-san, who isn't even the villain. Rather, he was blackmailed by a third party, a Marshall's competitor, who threatened Baek with revealing to the world the real cause of his father's death, Kid Baek himself. Law successfully defeated Baek and regained his dojo's reputation. So, second tournament is once again a progress for Law. Not as big as first one, but it's still a progress. He defended his reputation and he continued to run a successful dojo. Since he had more free time now that there were no more King of the Iron Fist tournaments, Marshall decided to open a Chinese fast food restaurant, Marshall China. And in the 19 years between the second and third tournaments, the restaurant has become a huge success. So Marshall had all the money and not a single care in the world. He was happy with his life and didn't have any reason to take part in the third tournament. But he still made an appearance. Not as a playable character though. Rather, his son was sort of pressured into entering the tournament by none other than Paul Phoenix, both Marshall's and Forrest's best friend. Paul was a really bad influence on young Forrest, and that caused Marshall to break off his friendship with Paul for a few years. Paul would go on to be one of the causes for Marshall's downfall, but we'll get to that. And before we do, make sure to like and subscribe so that you don't miss out on more videos like this. Also, thanks for the idea from the comments, Afro. So, for now we have a very successful businessman and a great martial arts teacher. What could go wrong? Well, it seems that Marshall did have some cares in the world. He had one big competitor that tried to push him out of the restaurant market, and the competitor succeeded in his meaning. So Marshall China was no more. The chain of restaurants went out of business as Marshall declared bankruptcy. Piling onto the misery, Forrest left home and Marshall was in ruins. He fell into depression and started drinking, until he saw an invitation for the fourth tournament. He joined the tournament in the hopes of getting enough money to restart his business. This is where Marshall's downfall started. He used to be happy and successful, but now he is just a shell of his former self. He's even worse off than he was in the first game. He doesn't even have a job anymore. And what do you think? Did he win the tournament? Of course not. so he was still broke and jobless. Now that Marshall lost in the tournament, he couldn't even come home. He was stuck in Japan and worked as a dishwasher there. And while he was doing that, his son was hanging out with Paul. And we already mentioned that Paul was a bad influence on Forrest, so you already know that something bad had happened. Paul borrowed his bike to Forrest. And of course, Forrest ended up in an accident. So his dad had to enter the tournament once again to cover the cost of Paul's bike and his dumb son's medical bills. And of course, once again, Law didn't win the tournament. But the way in which he was disqualified was ridiculous. He was deported back to the USA in the middle of the tournament because he was washing dishes illegally. His life became just sad. So now that he had no other choice, he rejoined with his troublesome, now dumb friend Paul, whose downfall I've already covered in this video. So feel free to check it out. The two of them decided to join the next tournament in the hopes of getting the money, since both of them were broke now. Law also decided to involve an Australian boxer, Steve Fox, so that they could have better chances of winning the money. Unfortunately, but predictably, the Three Stooges didn't win the tournament, so Marshall was now closer to getting his life back to normal. And then, Tekken 7 decides to take that hospital bills plot and puts it on the side for now, because it's not that Law needs the money right now anyway. There's no conclusion as to how Marshall plans to pay off his debts. He's now preoccupied with a more important question: who will run his dojo while he is absent? Seriously? He still has a dojo somehow? Why would anyone stay in the dojo without a master? Poor guy was working in Japan and washing dishes because he didn't have any money. But he still has a dojo? Why didn't he sell the dojo to cover a part of his debt? These kinds of questions just don't seem to bother Tekken 7 writers. They just pull those stories out of their asses. So I've been searching for clips for this video, and I made a grave mistake of searching for clip by the literal term of pull something out of the ass. Needless to say, I'm scarred for life. Moving on, rather than focusing on earning money, Law looks for his replacement in the dojo, and he finds no suitable volunteers. So he wants Feng Wei as his replacement. Feng, a guy that wants to prove that he's strongest person alive. I'm sure that he's interested in running a dojo. Man ruins dojos for fun. On top of that, Law allegedly has a deadline to pay off his debt. But he goes to China to find Feng and to fight him. I guess that the writers got rid of Law's ability to logically think now. And even if Law did win that fight, he still ran away from Feng, so that was a total waste of his time. So that's Law's story for now. He used to be a really successful businessman, but now he's just the opposite. You would think that a man of Law's reputation would already get back up on his feet, either as a chef or as a martial artist. Hell, he's even inspired by Bruce Lee. Why not make him a movie star? He could repay his debts that way. As for Law's downfall, it wasn't as bad for him character-wise as it was for Paul, since his story ties in together nicely from game to game, unlike Paul's. But it was much worse for him career and money-wise, since he lost everything and then some, as he is repaying his son's debt for 3 tournaments now. Hopefully something good will happen for him in Tekken 8. He already looks pretty good. He doesn't look like he's 25 anymore, and you can actually see that he is more mature. So at least for now, he's heading in the right direction. He may even be able to pay off his debt. Maybe something like a divine intervention from Yoshimitsu will happen. But I have no idea what's on writers' minds. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below, and thank you guys for watching, and there will be more to come. See ya!